So, back for another VGC guide, and this time we are looking at Landorus Incarnates. Use Earth Power, don't use Sandsear Storm. That's basically the guide. But otherwise, Earth Power is way more consistent than Sandsear Storm. Unless you've got a Pelipper on the team, go with Earth Power. It's going to be way more consistent. They both get the sheer force boost, which is very nice, but Earth Power is going to be a lot of damage. Like, significant single target damage to the point where it can just Okos and things. So, Sandsear Storm can't do that, and it's going to miss a load of the times. So unless you've got rain somewhere, use Earth Power. Not entirely convinced that Terra Blast is, like, mandatory on Landorus. It definitely is on Thunderous Therian, but not on this Landorus, for a couple of reasons. One, Terra Blast doesn't get sheer force boosted, so it doesn't get the extra boost on top of that, meaning that other moves are getting close to matching the stab of the flying for the Terra Blast. Also, turning into a flying type is actually not so great defensively for Landorus, because suddenly you go from immune to electric to weak against electric. Thunderous Therian didn't have that problem because it's got Volt Absorb, so that's sorted with that. But this one, no sheer force boost, and bad defensively for Landorus as well. The Terra Blast will still do great damage, and ground and flying is brilliant coverage for just two types, so it's still good. I don't think it's mandatory. The other moves are still very reasonable as well. Like, Psychic is going to be a way to be able to hit Urshifus, so you don't need to be able to, have to go for your Flying Terra Blast. I should say it's only hitting the Water-type Urshifu. That will be much more common than the Dark one, but still both going to be common. Terra Blast hits both. Psychic will still be fine against just the Water-type Urshifus. Here are some other recommended moves. This is not a recommended moveset, it's just recommended moves. Sandsear Storm is still worth the mention if you've got Pelipper, but otherwise, don't use it. Like, it's going to miss so many times. Grass Knot is still a very good move to be able to do a lot of damage against all the heavy targets, like things like Tinglu are still going to be Pokemon, so Grass Knot is still going to be good coverage. Doesn't get the sheer force boost, so not as strong as it could be, but things like Sludge Bomb is going to be very good. Sludge Bomb has been used previously on Landorus. You just have Poison and Ground as your coverage, and that's been fine. Like, we've had that on previous generation Landoruses where they just have Poison and Ground, that's all you need, because Poison is able to hit grass types that ground won't be able to hit. So if you don't want the Terra Blast flying, you can perfectly reasonably put Sludge Bomb over the Terra Blast and just have a defensive Terra type instead. Water is the best one, because it resists both water and ice that would hit Landorus otherwise. So yeah, like, if you don't have Terra Blast, go to Terra Water on your Landorus. And if you do have Terra Blast, obviously do go flying. Here are some supportive moves status moves that can help out Landorus. Previously it was Calm Mind, and that was still very good on Landorus. Like, getting the special defense boost as well, usually +1 was enough. Sometimes it wasn't, now it gets Nasty Plot. So this can actually really set up and sweep a lot of opponents. A +2 will OHKO a lot of things. Like, the majority of things in the format that don't resist Earth Power will be KO'd to a Life Orb, Sheer Force boosted Earth Power from Landorus. So Nasty Plot is going to be very good on it. Substitute was used previously as well. Who's buying that free turn is always very nice. And apparently, Landorus gets Taunt now. It didn't in the previous generations. This is the first generation that Landorus has got Taunt, which is hilarious, because the other two genies did. Now, finally, Landorus does. And it's still a very good move on this Landorus. Like, if you go Earth Power and, like, Terra Blast / Sludge Bomb, and then just have Taunt as your filler move, that's perfectly fine. Scarf is worth mentioning. I would probably go with Scarf if I have Pelipper to allow me to have both Earth Power and Sandsear Storm perfectly fine. So then you'll be able to get the spread and get the consistency when you don't have rain on the field. Terra Blast is still good for that. Psychic is still a perfectly fine move. Would normally recommend Rock Slide as coverage on Scarf Pokemon, but Rock Slide can't flinch with the sheer force, so it's not as necessary. Still good. It'll pick off some Talonflames that are trying to be cheeky and not go for a Tailwind turn one, all things like that. But the coverage is basically just open for interpretation. You should probably have Earth Power. No, I'll rephrase that. You should absolutely have Earth Power. You should probably have Sandsear Storm if you are on the Rain team, and don't if you don't. Terra Blast is very good, Psychic's very good, all these other coverage moves are very good, so just pick your favourites. But this is still going to be a very, very strong Pokemon. We saw it in the, Spikemuth Cup in the last generation, that Landorus Incarnate was actually, I think, more common than Landorus Therian. So even though Intimidate is absolutely busted and Landorus Therian has been everywhere, Landorus Incarnate is absolutely still going to have its place.